Victor Harrington had grown used to silence. It clung to the walls of his vast mansion like fog, creeping into every corridor, settling into every ornate corner, and suffocating every attempt at warmth. His home is not a place of laughter or joy but a museum of wealth, where every polished marble surface gleamed coldly and every chandelier sparkled with a light that seemed sterile. He told himself he had built all this for his daughter, Emily, yet even that truth weighed heavy on him, for the girl rarely ventured beyond the second floor, rarely touched the gilded stair banister he had once imagined she'd slide down in carefree play. Instead, Emily's world was bounded by her wheelchair, her books, and her own imagination, and confined not only by her physical disability but by the loneliness that filled the void her mother's death had left behind. Victor himself had buried his grief in work. Business became his refuge. He rose before dawn, buried himself in meetings, acquisitions, and stock reports, and returned home long after the world had gone to bed. His days blurred into one another, and his home remained a place he passed through, not a place he lived in. He told himself he was doing it all for Emily's future, building her security, ensuring she would never want for anything but what she wanted or what she needed was something he had forgotten how to give. The mansion reflected his neglect. Yes, it was immaculate, thanks to the small staff he employed, but it lacked the lived-in warmth of a family home. Even the kitchen smelled more of polish than food. Meals were often solitary affairs for Emily, prepared by Rosa, the maid who had quietly become more than just staff. Rosa was steady, patient, and warm-hearted, though Victor rarely noticed beyond a polite nod or brief instruction. To him, she was another employee. To Emily, however, Rosa was the closest thing to companionship she had. On a Friday evening in late autumn, Victor's driver pulled up to the wrought iron gates of the Harrington estate. The city skyline behind him twinkled, alive with motion, while his mansion loomed ahead, grand and still. Victor stepped out of the sleek black car, his leather shoes clicking on the driveway. The night air was crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of rain-soaked earth. He loosened his tie as he entered, expecting the same silence that always greeted him. The foyer was as cavernous as ever. Marble floors reflected the glow of the chandelier above. The grandfather clock ticked steadily, the only sound breaking the stillness. He set his briefcase down on the console table, sighing. For once, he had come home early, not because he wanted to but because exhaustion had gnawed at him during his last meeting, leaving him unable to focus. He imagined he might pour himself a glass of whiskey and sit in his study for a while before checking in on Emily. Then it happened. A sound, unexpected, faint at first, like a ripple on still water. It rose through the air and floated down the staircase. Laughter. Victor froze. His pulse skipped. He hadn't heard that sound in years, at least not like this. It was rich, unrestrained, filled with pure delight. For a moment, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. Perhaps it was the television? No, there was a music-like quality to it, a melody that only Emily's voice could carry. His heart gave an involuntary lurch. Emily never laughed like that anymore. Her smiles were quiet, often tinged with sadness, and her laughter, when it appeared, was soft and brief, like a candle flickering in the wind. But this was different. It was full-bodied and contagious, the kind of laughter that bubbled out of the soul. Victor's throat tightened. Who was with her? He moved toward the staircase, each step deliberate, his polished shoes muffled on the carpeted runner. As he ascended, the sound grew clearer, accompanied now by something else in music, a song with a lively rhythm, the kind Rosa often hummed when tidying the house. But now it was playing louder, perhaps from Emily's speaker, spilling joy into the long hallway. Victor reached the top of the stairs, his breath catching. His mind raced with possibilities. Had one of Emily's old school friends come to visit? Had Rosa brought in someone without asking? Or had his daughter discovered a secret joy he had been blind to? He walked down the hallway, his footsteps careful, almost reverent, as though afraid he might scare the laughter away. When he reached Emily's door, slightly ajar, he paused. The glow of the lamp inside spilled into the hallway, warm and golden. He pushed the door open an inch further, and what he saw nearly stopped his heart. There, in the center of the room, Rosette whirled gracefully, her skirt flaring as she spun to the beat of the music. Her movements weren't polished like a professional dancer's but lively and filled with joy. She clapped her hands, stomped her feet, and laughed along with the rhythm. In front of her, Emily sat in her wheelchair, her face lit up with sheer delight, her small hands clapping in time with the music. But Rosa didn't stop there. She moved closer, gently taking Emily's hands in hers. "Come, ni a tilde plus minus a, let's dance together," she encouraged, her voice rich with warmth. She guided Emily's arms in playful movements, swaying her wheelchair back and forth with exaggerated flair, as though Emily were the star of the dance. Emily's laughter filled the room again, bright and uninhibited. Tears of joy streaked down her cheeks as Rosette whirled around her, pretending Emily was her dance partner in a grand ballroom. The music rose, and Rosa lifted Emily's hands high, spinning under them with a flourish, making the girl giggle uncontrollably. Victor stood frozen in the doorway. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. He could only watch. His daughter, his Emilia, looked alive, truly alive. Her eyes sparkled, her cheeks were flushed, and her laughter shook the air like wind chimes in a summer breeze. It was a sound he had forgotten, a sound he hadn't realized he missed until it struck him now, piercing through the armor of years of distance and duty. His eyes stung, the image blurred. He blinked hard, trying to steady himself, but the truth was undeniable. In that single moment, he realized the hollowness of his wealth, the emptiness of his grand empire. All the deals, all the meetings, all the skyscrapers he had bought up, it had all been meaningless compared to this. A single maid with a kind heart had given his daughter what he, with all his riches, could not. Victor gripped the doorframe for support. He felt both awe and shame flood through him in equal measure. Awe at the joy blooming before him. Shame at the realization of how absent he had been from Emily's life. He had built walls of marble and glass, but they had only trapped his daughter in silence. Now, before his very eyes, Rosa had shattered that silence. Victor stayed hidden, unable to step forward, unwilling to break the spell. For the first time in years, the Harrington mansion was alive with sound, and not the cold tick of the grandfather clock, not the echo of his footsteps, but the laughter of his daughter, pure and unfiltered. He closed his eyes, letting the sound wash over him, searing itself into his memory. For the first time in a long time, Victor Harrington felt something stir deep within his chest. Not pride, not power, something softer, something he had nearly forgotten he could feel. Love. And he knew life would never be the same again. Victor's hand trembled on the doorframe. His heart beat so violently that he feared both Rosa and Emily could hear it over the music. The weight of what he had witnessed in those few moments pressed against his chest with unbearable force. His little girl, his Emilia, was laughing, alive, radiant. Yet he was not the one who had given her that joy. He had stood on the sidelines for too long, convincing himself that board meetings, mergers, and financial security were the truest form of love. But here, in this golden-lit room, reality had split open, and Victor found himself staring at the proof of his failure. Rosa stopped mid-spin when her eyes caught his silhouette in the doorway. She froze, her face draining of color. The music continued to play, cheerful and oblivious, but her movements ceased. Emily followed her gaze, turning her head toward the door. When her bright eyes found her father standing there, her laughter stilled, fading into a silence so thick it seemed to choke the room. For a moment, no one moved. Victor stepped forward, his footsteps slow and deliberate. His voice was unsteady when he finally spoke. "Yeah, broken bar, I haven't heard you laugh like that in years." Emily blinked, uncertain, her fingers tightening on the arms of her wheelchair. "Daddy, broken bar," she bit her lip, guilt flickering in her eyes as if she had done something forbidden. "Rosa was just a broken bar, just making me happy." Rosa lowered her head quickly, wringing her hands. "I am so sorry, Mr. Harrington," she said in a rush, her accent thicker in her nervousness. "I did not mean to overstep my place. I only wanted to bring some light to her evening. Please forgive me." Victor looked at her, really looked at her for perhaps the first time since she had come into their lives. Rosa was not young, but not old either, with dark hair streaked with silver and kind eyes that now brimmed with anxiety. She had been in his home for nearly 3 years, moving silently through the halls, tending to Emily with quiet devotion. And yet, Victor realized, he had never truly seen her. His chest ached. "Don't apologize," he said softly. His voice cracked, surprising even himself. He cleared his throat, steadied his tone, and repeated, firmer this time, "Don't apologize. You've done a broken bar more than anyone else has, more than I have." Rose's lips parted slightly in shock, but she said nothing. Emily, meanwhile, gazed at her father with wide eyes. The atmosphere in the room shifted, thick with emotions none of them knew quite how to express. Victor crossed the room slowly. He stopped before Emily, his tall frame casting a shadow across her. He knelt down so that he was eye level with his daughter. Her face, still flushed from laughter, seemed both fragile and luminous. "Emily," he whispered, "you looked so happy just now." "Yeah, broken bar, I almost didn't recognize you. I didn't realize how much I've missed that sound." Tears welled in her eyes, threatening to spill. She reached out her small hand, resting it on his. "Daddy, I thought maybe you didn't care about laughter anymore." The words pierced him like a knife. He swallowed hard, blinking back his own tears. "I do care," he said quickly, squeezing her hand. "I just a broken bar forgot how. I let myself forget, and that's my fault, not yours." Emily's lip trembled, but then she smiled faintly. "Rosa taught me again. She made me remember how fun it feels." Victor turned toward Rosa, who stood uncertainly, wringing the edge of her apron. He rose to his feet, his movements deliberate. Slowly, he extended his hand to her. "Teach me," he said, his voice slow but steady. Rosa blinked, stunned. "Sir?" "Teach me how to dance with my daughter," Victor said, his throat tight. "I want to learn." Emily gasped, her face lighting up with joy. "Really, Daddy?" Victor nodded, forcing a small smile. "Really?" Rosa hesitated, searching his face for sincerity. When she found it, her features softened. She wiped her palms nervously against her apron before placing her hand in his. "Very well, sir," she said gently, "but only if you promise not to step on my toes." For the first time in years, Victor chuckled. It was a rusty sound, unused, but real. Emily clapped her hands with delight. Yes, Daddy's going to dance with me." Rosa guided Victor to stand beside Emily's chair. She showed him how to place his hands on the wheelchair handles, how to move in rhythm with Emily's clapping. It was awkward at first. Victor was stiff, unfamiliar, his movements clumsy, but Emily's laughter filled the gaps, encouraging him. Rosa hummed along with the music, her voice steady and soothing, guiding them through each step. Soon, Victor found himself loosening, letting the rhythm carry him. He spun Emily's chair gently, making her squeal with joy. He lifted her hands, pretending she'd whirled him like Rosa had done moments before. His chest swelled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Pride at seeing his daughter radiant, sorrow for all the years he had missed. Emily laughed until her cheeks hurt. "You're not bad, Daddy," she teased. Victor grinned, breathless, his heart lighter than it had felt in decades. "Only because I have the best teacher," he said, glancing at Rosa. Rosa smiled shyly, her eyes glistening. "No, sir, you already had it in you. You only needed to remember." The night stretched on in a way Victor wished it never would. They danced until the music faded and Emily grew tired, her eyelids drooping though her smile never faltered. Rosa helped tuck her into bed, while Victor lingered, sitting at his daughter's side. He stroked her hair gently, something he hadn't done since she was a small child. "Daddy?" Emily murmured sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart, promise me broken bar you won't forget again. Promise me we'll laugh more." Victor's throat tightened. He kissed her forehead softly. "I promise," he whispered. "I'll never forget again." Her breathing slowed as sleep claimed her, but her smile lingered even in slumber. When Victor stepped out of the room, Rosa was waiting in the hallway, her expression cautious. She started to apologize again, but Victor raised a hand gently. "Rosa," he said quietly, "you've given me back something I didn't even know I'd lost. I owe you more than I can ever repay." Rosa shook her head, her voice humble. "You owe me nothing, sir. All I wanted was for Emily to feel joy. She deserves it." Victor studied her for a long moment, the weight of sincerity in her eyes humbling him. "No," he said firmly, "I owe you everything. From this day forward, Things will be different, for her, for all of us. And as he walked back down the grand staircase, the silence of the Harrington mansion no longer felt suffocating. It felt full of echoes of laughter, full of promises of change, full of life reborn. For the first time in years, Victor Harrington realized that true wealth wasn't counted in dollars or possessions, but in moments like this, moments of connection, of laughter, of love. And he vowed, with every fiber of his being, never to let that silence return again.